Joining me now is Florida Senator Marco Rubio, Vice Chair of the Senate Intel Committee. Senator, you get the sense that that's really where the Democrats have arrived at. This idea that the old way, the American way, the Constitution, the Declaration, the normal course of things, that doesn't work. That didn't work. And they've moved on to a post-American understanding. Your sense of these things?
Yeah, this is the single greatest nation that's ever existed in the history of the world, the single greatest force for good in human history. I don't understand how there can be people that have grown up in this country, benefited from this country, and have so much self-loathing for the uniqueness of this country. You know, I hear that language, steady, sustainable growth. You know what that is? You know what they're basically saying? We are going to manage American decline. America's going to still be a big country, but we're going to settle in and just be one of many nations around the world. We're going to follow the guidelines and the rules and the consensus that's being set in these other foreign capitals around the world. In essence, America's going to stop acting like it's special, and we're going to start acting like we're just one of these other nations, maybe a little bit bigger, maybe a little bit richer, but we're just like them. We're not like them. This is the most unique nation on earth. That's why 100 million people would move here overnight if they could. There's been nothing like it in the history of the world. People that have lived in other countries know that. Unfortunately, too many of the people that hold elected office in this country don't know that, don't believe it, and they just won't admit it because they won't win elections if they do.
Now, this broke in the Washington Post tonight, Senator, that Biden met with, quote, historians last week at the White House who warned him about democracy being on the brink. And they report that the August 4th gathering was distinguished by a relatively small size and focus of the participants on the rise of totalitarianism around the world and the threat to democracy at home. Now, Senator, your response to the nonsense, we're not talking about what's happening abroad. There's a lot of stuff that's happening abroad that we all can agree is terrible. But it's the focus on the American people. That's what they're focusing on.
Yeah, what they're focusing on is, basically, let me translate it for you. Mr. President, there's millions and millions of everyday Americans out there, and they're good-meaning, but they're uneducated, they're backwards, they don't know what's good for them, and they're falling into the trap of these really evil people that are convincing them that things like, you know, real democracy, rule of law, enforcing borders, that all these things are terrible. And, Mr. President, it is important for us to not let these people it's important, basically, translation, it's important for us not to let the American people, working everyday people, and their common sense play a role in our decision-making. You used the word snobs earlier today. There's no better description for it. These are elitists that are completely insulated from the consequences of the things they support until, of course, the governor of Texas buses illegal immigrants to their city. Then they start complaining. And until, of course, crime goes out of control because their prosecutors won't put people away, then they care, but only because it impacts them. So this is at the core of what we're having. The biggest division in American politics today is not Republican and Democrat. It is that we have people in charge of government that do not care about working Americans and are completely out of touch with the common sense, wisdom, and the working class values of millions and millions and millions of Americans who, by the way, these people that are in power work for.
Yeah, they look at them with utter disdain and contempt. And, Senator, I want to play a moment from CNN today that I think that reveals just how quickly the narrative has been flipped. Watch.
He's used this to launch attacks against the FBI, calling this a siege. And as you can see, that has resulted in attacks against members of law enforcement. All of the information is coming out on this is coming out from Donald Trump.
So the response to this raid on Mar-a-Lago is to turn around and blame Trump for being upset or Trump supporters for asking questions? What?
Yeah, well, I warned last night that the next step in this game, and I've seen it before, I've seen it play out in Latin America a million times, unfortunately. The next step is you start to say, by the way, their supporters are being really loud and really upset. They're dangerous. We got to crack down on them. This, by the way, from the same people who didn't seem concerned when American political figures were talking about how illegitimate the Supreme Court was, wouldn't say a word about people protesting outside the home of Supreme Court justices, didn't seem overly concerned about additional security for them or overly concerned about the fact that some guy got on a plane, flew halfway across the country to assassinate Supreme Court justices. They weren't concerned at all about these saying that the court needed to be torn apart. They didn't care about that. And that's not an agency of government. That is a branch of government. Look, these people are radicals. Honestly, I come on these programs. They're funding campaigns all over this country. My opponents raise millions of dollars. I need people to help me. Please go to marcorubio.com. I have to say that because we need the help. Because these are the kinds of things we want to litigate. The hypocrisy that is often embedded in the media that, frankly, today behaves like official mouthpieces of the ruling party.
Senator, before we let you go, the question of what our military today is capable of, when the Senate changes hands and it's back in Republican hands or at any of these hearings, will you pose the question to Mark Milley and Secretary Austin, are we capable of winning a war right now against China if that's what it came to in Taiwan? And if not, why not? And what are they going to do about it?
Well, I fear that today we probably could, although it would be a costly war. But the war's not going to be today. The potential war is going to be in a couple of years. Certainly before the end of this decade, I think China will definitely do something. And I don't know what we can expect the answer to be. We have a military that spends a lot of money on social media explaining to us the proper use of pronouns and how woke they are. China, on the other hand, spends all its time focused on blowing up our aircraft carriers. So I think that's not just a question for the military. It's also a question for our intelligence community that we have oversight over. These are not social experiments. These exist to defend this country from enemies, and they invite aggression if they are not up to the task.
Senator, we're looking forward to those hearings. Thank you very much. Great to have you on tonight.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.